Just want to start by saying good morning and welcome everybody. We know you guys have lots of kids and families that are relying on you today. So thanks for jumping on and spending some time to think about this mid-year LCAP. And so all of us know that have been in administration, these things that kind of come and go as requirements for us as administrators. Yes, there's some element of compliance, but there's also an element with a mid-year LCAP update to really connect back to the work you're doing and use it as an opportunity to not only meet some of the compliance requirements, but to also, I'm a board chair of my local school board. It's an incredible opportunity to talk to your local school boards, provide updates, and to talk to your team. Kind of a mid-year step back of where are we, what have we accomplished, where do we need to turn up the lever, and where do we need to celebrate what's worked really well. So we're excited to jump in today, share some insights about your mid-year LCAP presentation, provide you a template that you could use, take, change, modify, but just to try to be a partner helping you move forward those conversations before the deadline comes up here in February. In the name of time, I can see everybody that's on here, so we'll just get going. This is the rough crew that you guys landed with in this webinar. So we're gonna have to just I'm lucky. I work with awesome folks. So I'll let Kim and Summer say hi. This is the team that's been working on this to try to help you guys with this mid-year LCAP. So Summer, Kim, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, you said Summer first, so I guess Summer goes first. Hey everyone, my name's Summer. I'm an account executive with Parsec. So typically you would see me when you're a new partner and you're coming in and you're wanting to discover and find out more about how Parsec might be able to support you. And then once you talk to me, you deal with someone wonderful like Kim, who's a partner engagement manager. So I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Hey everybody, my name is Kimberly Dumumbing. I'm a partner engagement manager at Parsec. My role is to coordinate between you, the amazing partners and schools, and what you're doing with our team who's trying to support you with the data and information that you need to make amazing decisions for your students. So I'm really the bridge between the two worlds, our team and yours. And I'm very excited to be here today to can keep helping and supporting those bridges and meeting your needs.
Okay. They're awesome. I'm Marshall. I'm been a school administrator, was a professor of teacher education, and then really my PhD focused on school data, improvement science, how to help change the trends. And as a principal, I tried so hard and I just, some years I would get results and some years I wouldn't, and trying to explore why that happens and how we do that better. It's been a blast walking along and learning from some of you on this call on how we do that. I want to start. I'm an extrovert and all these screens are hurting my soul, but I understand because I myself was not on screen this morning in a meeting. But I would love for everyone in a nice, safe space in the chat, if you could just share quickly, what are your feelings, thoughts, concerns, questions? What is your reaction to your mid-year LCAP update that's mandated and is coming up in February? So in the chat box, if everybody can just share, what feelings are you having about the mid-year update? Share in chat, and then we'll look at those. Kim, that melting emoji became one of my best friends when it came about. I found out oddly that the melting emoji has arrived and it was very useful in our field. Dana, it does. It is so daunting. We feel the same way. But I think, with this template, it'll help kind of put some structures in place. We can fill out these elements and we'll have a really good mid-year update. Amanda, I think being nervous is par for the course, right? It's such an important document. Thanks for sharing that and being vulnerable in that. Allison, I love this idea of it was long and complex, and that's so difficult for the board. So having real clarity when you present your story is important. Love that you're making it more digestible. That's great. Lee, I'm glad you're here. All of us have been in that new role where we're trying to learn all the systems. That's awesome. Hamina, this expanding the voice, like passing the microphone around, letting more people be a part of the narrative is really cool. I think that's something we'll be able to talk about today and really provide some options for. Okay, you've made my extrovert heart warm. I now feel connected to you, even though I understand, I can't see you. I do know that you're there. As we jump into the objectives today, our objectives are to learn something new, right? Reduce anxiety over this LCAP, put some boundaries around it, put some structures to it where it becomes a document that we can systematically figure out, provide some tools to do this, and spark some good conversation. We can learn as much from everyone on this call as you can from the three of us. So we want this, everybody jump in, learn something new from each other. Second, make a friend. Everybody wants friends. So if we don't have friends in this process, if we don't have someone that we can call up and say, hey, what is your mid-year LCAP looking like? Do you have any ideas? Yes, Dana, we will be sharing this presentation for sure. And then the third is applying this thinking to our work. So we're going to actually look at a template and we're going to have that conversation about how could you directly move tomorrow? Copy, save, here's a new presentation template. So we're going to do that. These are the three things we'll do today. Context for the mid-year LCAP, right? All of us just not assuming, here we are fresh. Why is this important? Senate Bill 114, which was passed in 2023, has this requirement that LEAs have to present a report on the annual update to the local control and accountability plan, the LCAP, and a budget overview for parents. So this has to be done on or before February 28th at a regularly scheduled meeting of the governing board or the board of the LEA. So board members love these. This is fantastic. We love these updates. I'll just tell you, as a board member, a clear, succinct progress update of like, how are we spending taxpayer dollars and what's the return on that investment? There's nothing that makes the board member's heart happier. But it's also a high stakes conversation, right? It's like discussing the progress to your board. So as we consider the evaluation of the superintendent, or for a charter organization, thinking about the authorization of your charter, these conversations are high stakes. And so we want to make sure we handle that. It's both exciting and fun to tell your story, but it also carries a bit of weight because it is talking about the academic return on investment. The two requirements for this document is all available mid-year outcome data related to metrics identified in your LCAP. So the LCAP metrics you've identified, whatever mid-year data you have, presenting those. So you can think about, for some of you that are Parsec partners, we just got through our data insights meeting, and you have so many summary slides already that are key to the metrics in your LCAP. The second requirement is all available mid-year expenditure and implementation data on all actions identified in the current LCAP. So you said you were going to spend $6 million on action 2.7. How much of that have you spent? And what have you done? What has been your implementation? And how do you do that in a way that's clear and concise? Because I've seen some of your LCAPs, and they're very long documents, and they have to be, I understand. But how do we bring about that discussion in a way that's clear and concise? So I want to step back and just, this is the professor in me kind of like talking about just like a conceptual idea of what does it look like to report and evaluate your efforts. So I think there's two elements to this. When we're reporting the metrics, that's like DFS growth. This is something you have in your LCAP. So being able to explain, you're not going to be able to explain DFS growth because you don't have another state test. So you don't have that data. So what are the proxy metrics? What are the metrics that you're monitoring that are the predictors of that? Perhaps it's your local assessment. Perhaps it's NWEA. Perhaps it's iReady. But we've got these results accountability metrics. How are the kids performing? But during your mid-year LCAP, another thing that's incredibly important that we forget about a lot is not just the results reporting, but our implementation reporting. So, it's often that, have we spent the money? Have we done the things that we said we would do? Have we done them well? And have they impacted folks, right? Answering those questions, that's the implementation monitoring, and that's the spirit behind the mid-year update. The spirit of the mid-year update is under this line, right? It does include the results, but most of it is, I think about it as asking three main questions. How much have you done? That's the first question. It's easy. How much have you spent? How many trainings have you had? How many kids have been served? How many families have come to a family night, right? How many? What have you done? The second question is not just how much have you done, but then to take it to the next step of how well did you do it? So 47% of our kids' families came to family night. That's how much you did. How well did you do it? We used Parsec Real. We got feedback from families, and 90% of the families expressed a positive sentiment of the event. So not only did we have them, but they liked it. It was helpful. And then the third question is, what impact did it have? So they came, they liked it. Third question, what was the impact? FAFSA forms, FAFSA completion forms went up by 22%, right? So we had the meeting, people came, they enjoyed it, and it led to an increase in FAFSA completion. It's like, this is like a waltz. This is the evaluation waltz that really is important for the mid-year LCAP. How much did you do? How well did you do it? And who was impacted as a result? So when you think about that rhythm, that really helps starts to put a framework behind how you talk about and tell your story of what is the great work you've been doing, how have you spent money, what is the progress of implementation, and how has it impacted your kids and families. So hopefully this framework helps think about what exactly you're reporting on, because this is different. This is different than saying, last year we were 48 points below standard, and now we're 44 points below standard. We're used to talking like that. This is not as common, right? How much, how well, and who was impacted. Okay, I'm a teacher, so I'm always going to stop and say thoughts, comments, concerns, challenges, rebuts, anything. I'm curious. I'll just open it up. If anybody has anything they want to share or say about this framework. Wait time is done. Okay, my teacher educator would say good. You had good wait time. I was terrible at that, by the way. When I was a student teacher, they'd be like, no, don't talk yet. Don't fill the space. I can't. So often when we look at data, it's understanding the why behind our data. So we talk so much about quantitative, but also thinking about qualitative for your LCAP goals. So as you prepare to share your mid-year update, it's critical that you proactively account for your results. We look at data all day. All I do all day is I meet with you guys, look at your data, celebrate your results, discuss some areas that I'm seeing that maybe are outliers. But you guys know that so often we say, oh, look, these students performed 10% better than the other students. That's a fact. And that's what data provides. But it doesn't provide the why. And it's so important for your board members and your stakeholders and your families and your kids to be honored well by knowing and having their voice at the table when we describe why. So an example is, if you ask students or staff open-ended questions about what they see as a barrier to achieving a goal, you're going to start to understand why. Our results weren't what we thought. Why? Well, if you ask families, kids, parents, teachers, what are the barriers you're experiencing, you're going to start to see things arise that perhaps you didn't think about, or confirm your hypotheses of what you thought was happening. So asking these qualitative questions is really important. Also, if metrics are on track, we talk about sometimes schools are just lucky. Sometimes schools are leading. So did you get the results because this group of students just had a great day? Or did you get the results because these students have experienced an intervention that worked? So trying to really ask those questions and see how kids are saying, once I was in Read 180, I started to be able to understand the text better. Like I can read better now. I'm able to understand better now, right? So hearing some of these background stories is important. Shameless plug, like for a long time, as an educator, we've always struggled with how to collect qualitative information at scale. And to be just really blunt, it is really difficult to collect qualitative information from folks in a way that's respectful, provides dignity, provides anonymity, and is done in a way that is comfortable for the people providing the feedback. So I used to feel bad about this, but I don't now. Like shameless plug, as a company of educators, that's where Parsec Real came about, is how do we collect information from people and families and kids in a way that exudes dignity for their voice and for their position and for their information. So Parsec Real for us was built exactly for this mid-year LCAP situation, where you need to know why things are happening. As a board member, I'm okay with you saying, we didn't get the results we wanted, and this is why. And this is what we're doing now. To me, that's an organization that is learning, that is improving, that understands improvement science. But if you say we didn't get the results and we're not sure why, that's a little harder to stomach as a board member. So that's where, we have Parsec Real collects this kind of qualitative information. You can also just do interviews. You can also have your teachers have discussions with kids, but there's got to be some investigation to really know why that extends beyond just the numbers. So here's a scenario. Let's say you want to report on hypothetical goal 2, improving student achievement. This is a goal. Your goal was to increase the number of Black, Hispanic, and SED students enrolling in AP courses by 20%. So you had a target goal, but your mid-year update only shows a 2% decrease in enrollment rates for those students groups. So your LCAP says, we're spending money, we're putting efforts toward increasing AP access for these subgroups, but we've actually decreased by 2%. How do you communicate that story? And a lot of times people will say, can you filter using a different filter? Can we slice that a little differently? Is there a different way to look at this? Rather than leading into that and saying, this is an interesting finding, we know, so let's ask some questions to get to the why behind the data. If your results are amazing and you've doubled what you thought, then that's an easy narrative. But if you're getting into some of these data anomalies that aren't as easy to describe, you've got to start asking the right questions to know why. So you might ask a student, share your experience in choosing to take or not take an AP course. You guys, it blows my mind to watch some of these reels and to hear students answering questions like this. Because you'll hear the educator say, well, they don't do this because the math is too hard and this is happening and that's happening. But then you hear a kid and they're like, my friends aren't in AP and I'm not about to not be in with my friends. And if I take AP, then I don't get to have the lunch I want. And so there's no way I'm taking AP. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's totally a lunch issue. It is not a math issue at all. So some of the insights that we've gleaned from students answering questions like this is unbelievable. Just how wrong we can be sometimes as adults. You could also ask, what's one thing the school could have done to support your decision-making process? What is one thing that might persuade you to take an AP course next year? Don't change my lunch. I want to be in lunch A, and that puts me in lunch C. So I'm not about to eat lunch by myself. So you'll start to see, you start to have some understanding. And as a board, to have a school district that has that kind of information and insight is really valuable. All right, TV timeout. Does anybody have an example of where you thought something was the reason and then through student voice you figured out it was something else? I'm going to keep trying. I can't even see eyes. I did see Amina gave 2 hands raised, so I appreciate that. Something was resonating there. Yes, Kim?
I'll share one for one of my partner schools. They were concerned about the fact that students kept reporting there was no community on campus. And they were like, why not? They changed a bunch of programs, added after school programs, different conversations. They actually finally asked the students why they felt there was no community on campus. And the answer they gave was, well, aren't you aware that there's not enough tables and chairs at the lunch area? So we can't actually sit and eat together. They also found out that the lunch was almost 10 minutes too short for every single student to be able to get lunch if they were buying lunch, and then be able to have time to eat. So because the lunch felt rushed and there wasn't enough seating for all the kids, they felt that there was no time for community and it wasn't prioritized for them.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Kim. So this brings us to the question of, should we be collecting qualitative data on all metrics? No, absolutely not. What are the goals and actions that are of utmost importance to you? So we all know, where are you placing your bets, right? Like, we're placing our bets on the Take Flight Dyslexia program to improve our reading score. That's where we're placing our bet. That is what we believe is going to get us there. So that has to be implemented well. It's where our money's going. It's where our effort's going. It's what we believe in. Everyone's working on this. It's got to go well. The board's going to know that because the board is going to see the budget. The board's going to see where you've appropriated funds. So this qualitative data, you have to be prioritizing what is it we want to know about? What is the highest leverage action that we're taking? And then collecting data on those highest leverage actions. One thing, this is a tool, okay? So free tool, doesn't cost $1, but it could be really helpful as you think about the language for this report. So at Parsec, I'm just going to show you just right here in front of you. If I go to parseceducation.com and I go to more, unlock LCAP insights. This is an incredibly valuable tool. It will save you hours of time. So what this does is you put your name, your email, and then you put an action title. So your action title might be something like provide behavior and discipline data for all teachers so that they can constantly monitor the behavior trends of our school. And then you put an action description. Every teacher is going to have a dashboard. This is what it's going to do. This is what it's intended to be. You can pull this straight from your LCAP. Like, go to your LCAP, copy the action name, and then copy the action description and place it into these boxes. When you push generate, it's going to send you an email using our informed AI. So not just AI in the world, but like AI that is informed by what we know about education in California. And it's going to provide you an enhanced description, a set of qualitative questions that you could ask, a rubric, and then it's going to talk to you about what effectiveness would look like. So if you want to grab this right now, you can get your phone, you can scan this code if you don't want to have to remember how to get there, but it's easy. You go to our website, you go to what we talked about here, more, unlock LCAP insights. This is what it produces. This is what the email is that it produces. If you want to know how well you're implementing with Fidelity, here are questions that you might ask a teacher, right? How have you incorporated behavior data analysis into your daily or weekly routine? That's the question. You feed that to Parsec Real, or you send it out in a survey on Qualtrics, or you walk around your school and ask teachers just face to face. All of those work. What you're looking for is an answer like this. Teachers regularly review behavior data and integrate it into their planning. This is what we're hoping they answer. This is how you can get a sense of, are they answering, are they implementing properly? You also have questions for students. So you could ask a student, how do teachers use information to help with behavior in class? Students recognize teachers are using specific data to support their behavior. So you're starting to have some of these prompts and guided answers. It also provides you a fidelity monitoring rubric. So what does highly effective look like for teachers? And what does highly effective look like for students? So this starts to give you some verbiage that you could use in your mid-year LCAP to talk about what effectiveness looks like for your kiddos. So we've talked a little bit about leveraging Parsec Real. Surveys, they're fine, right? They do a lot. But Real turns qualitative data into actionable insights, and it helps you not only collect the information, but it analyzes it for you and it gives you the themes. Like in general, this is what people think. So you can see what that platform looks like. You just click Let's Go. You can type your answer, you can record your answer, or you can video yourself answering. Regardless of the input, the system uses AI, collects all that information, and then it summarizes it for you. So you can look at question 1, you can go hear what your community is sharing, and then on the left, it tells you the themes of what you're seeing across all of the submissions. This information can go directly into your LCAP mid-year. Exact, like this is what people are saying about our implementation of this action. And I'm telling you, there is nothing more cool as a board member than to hear a student talking about a program in a way that demonstrates the impact of your action. So these videos can be really powerful in helping people see what impact looks like right in front of them. So this takes us to, so what does this look like and how do we actually start finishing our mid-year LCAP update? Before I jump into that, any thoughts, comments, questions? Summer, Kim, Robert, anything you would add? All right. So here's the tool. And we're going to send this out to everybody that's in the webinar. Like, we've researched the mid-year update. We've seen really good examples. And we're providing this as a template that you could work from. I'm going to leave it in the non-presenter view because it's made to be a tool, not a presentation for us. So you can see here at the bottom, it says delete this slide. So we've got a couple of slides that are to help you and your team know how to use this tool or some resources for how to use this tool. So you can see here at the beginning, here's a checklist. 4 suggested things before you start that you should consider before jumping into your mid-year LCAP checklist. First, review your LCAP metrics and goals. So get that out, get it back in front of you, kind of get those rolling around your head again. What are the goals? How many do we have? What are the actions? And what are the metrics that we've really attached to those? So get your LCAP out, dust it off a bit, get that back in front of you, and get those actions back in your mind. Second, if you plan to use, the reason the webinar is right now is if you plan to use qualitative data, you have to start thinking about collecting that now. So what's going to happen is if you don't, you're going to get to February and it's going to be a frantic, like, we're just going to fill out information, put in some numbers. We're going to try to get everyone to, provide information. Right now, if you're already using Parsec Real, launching those campaigns right now. If you don't have Parsec Real, sending out a survey, talking to your teachers, collecting information from students and families, whatever medium is, I don't personally really care. I think Parsec is great if you have Real. If you don't, use other platforms. But you have to start collecting that information now. And you have to ask the right questions. So figure out what are the questions you want to ask, and you need to start collecting that information. Third, identify improvement actions. For areas where your goals were not met or progress is slower than anticipated, you've got to be ready to talk to the board, get your team together, and figure out what are we going to do next. That's the difference between a learning organization and a losing organization. A losing organization is not achieving the results they want and they don't know why. A learning organization, if they don't get the result they hope for, they create a plan, they identify the root cause, and they move forward with a new hypothesis and a new action. So for any of your areas that didn't improve like you wanted, start to develop that plan, because that plan is really important to share. Last, identify qualitative questions to monitor action effectiveness. So using the LCAP tool, add your actions and receive this email, which can start to develop the language you want to use for highly effective implementation and questions you might ask your students and teachers about that process. Just raise your hand if you want to. If I see a hand raised, I'll stop, because this is the tool that you guys will use. So if there's anything you want us to elaborate on, please stop us and make us do that. So leveling up your mid-year update, like what could you do? We talked about this, understanding the why behind your results. This is the same thing we talked about earlier on the other slide, but we wanted to provide this to you so that when you're talking to your teams, you're now prepared. If you get your cabinet together and you're talking about, hey, cabinet, it's time for us to talk about LCAP insights and LCAP mid-year, you have a slide that can help you convey the importance of qualitative data, the same thing we discussed earlier. So a bit of the like train the trainer model of, if you're going to have this conversation with your staff, this sets you up well to be that trainer. Here's the same example that we gave prior, right? If you're not getting the results you want, it's important to talk to your staff and create the culture that it's okay for us to not always improve. It's okay to fail. That's important in improvement science. The ability to experiment, the ability to try things, as long as we are monitoring the effectiveness and we know what is and is not working. So it's important at this mid-year update time to like build the culture of, it's okay if we didn't get the results. Like, don't try to slice the data. Don't try to change the narrative. Own it. This is the time to own it. So building that culture from your perspective as a school leader, that it's okay to say we decreased by 2%. We didn't increase. And it's okay to say that. That should be rewarded. And how do we dig deeper now to figure out the next step? So this slide helps create that culture of, it's okay, like some results will be great, some not so great. That's okay. How do we address that and be a learning organization? Again, helping them understand the same conversation we just had. Not everything requires qualitative data. It's the things that you've invested in the most, the things that you bet on heavily. Those are the things you want to know if they're working. Where do I begin? It takes you back to these qualitative questions at the LCAP Insight tool. So if you're presenting this to your cabinet or to your team, this just gives you the live link. You just click on the link and everyone in your team could go access this tool and start to explore questions that they could ask. So here's the actual template. So to use this template, you would delete slides 1 through 7. Get rid of them. Then you have the template that is like, okay, guys, this is what we have to fill out. This is our mid-year LCAP update. So you can see here, it has a place for you to place your logo on the top. You can change your organization name and date. And we'd obviously suggest that you go into the color schemes and choose a color scheme that matches your district, right? The marketing folks on the call, they're like, yes, change the colors. Make it look good. Make it match. This is yours, not ours. You don't see a Parsec logo on this, so feel free to change the colors and adjust that as needed. It's also important it provides for you, like for your board. Hey, everyone, here's the legislation. This is why we're providing this update. This is the language there. So I think that's important for the board to understand, and it goes ahead and provides that language for you. Then it talks about the funding changes impacting the budget overview for parents. And so this is the BOP. So this is making sure that you comply with the second portion of your LCAP mid-year update. So you just say your organization name adopted our LCAP and budget on this date. The adopted state budget included additional funds that were not anticipated by our organization. The impact to our adopted budget overview for parents is as follows. So this is something you can send to your finance department. Make sure you ask that question to comply with state law. These are the total LCFF funds. This is the supplemental or concentration grants. What was it adopted as when we sent in our LCAP, and what is the new amount? So this helps you meet the requirement of that BOP. What money did we plan? What money do we have? This sets the stage for the entire presentation. This is what's changed. Okay, so now let's jump into those. This slide you can obviously duplicate. This is just giving them an overview of your LCAP. I'm just telling you, like, I jump into these LCAPs and it's hard to even find where last year's ends and this year's begins. And, you know, I've seen a lot of board members or stakeholders get lost in the first portion of the LCAP, which is last year's goal and the updates of last year's, like the progress. They'll get lost. So like getting them to the actual goals for the real year, these slides just help you really clearly state the goal, state the description, clear, concise, like some of you have mentioned on this call. Recentering the board on what our LCAP goals are and the descriptions of those goals. Next, we move into some of the goal metrics. So this is helping just explain, these are the population criteria, right? This is, are we making the difference we wanted to make? So on goal 1 metrics, you come here and you'll have one of these, you'll replicate. So if you'll notice here in the bottom, we've provided user information that helps you understand, like, these are some notes for how to use this guide. So you would duplicate this slide for as many goals as you have. And this provides a financial and progress monitoring goal that complies with the law, right? So you would duplicate this. If you have 9 goals, you would duplicate this 9 times. You'd put the goal title, the goal description. This is so clear and really straightforward. Your finance department could help. What was our budget as indicated in the LCAP? And how much was spent? Right? Straightforward. So what I would do is I would go in here if I were you, and I would create an @ comment, and I would say @ my favorite finance person, right? So if Kim is amazing at finance, I would say @ Kim. And then I would tag her in Google. If you're a Google district, I would tag her, and then I would assign her that task. Finance, I need you to input the budget and how much is spent as of the day of the presentation. So assign that to finance, delegate that work out. And then you get back to, what are the metrics that you established in your LCAP? They're right there in your LCAP, right? No work has to be done here. This is just entry. So these are the metrics that we established in the LCAP. This is the baseline. So identify the baseline. Where were you? Right? Historically. Where are you currently? And what is the target? So establishing real clear lines of communication around, this is the metric, where were we? Where are we? Where are we wanting to be? This sets the stage for the next slide for goal 1. This sets the stage for, this is the what, which is required by law, right? And important. This is the what. Then you follow this slide up with the why. Because if I'm a board member, I'm going to be like, what? It's not as what? And you're like, hold on, board chair, take a deep breath, get another cookie. This is the real story. Like, let's talk about the story, right? Let's get into the why. And like having that natural progression is really important in this mid-year LCAP. So sharing those metrics and then starting to talk about the rest of the story. How much have we done? How well did we do it? And who was impacted as a result? Goal 1. This is where people get blown away, right? Like, what have we done? What actions have we completed under goal 1? And what actions are ongoing? Crystal clear, not 22 pages, not long, exhaustive narratives, just these are the things we've done. These are the things that are ongoing. So this, whoever's owning each goal can really go in and like these actions are embedded in your LCAP. So, action 1.1, action 1.2, action 1.3, action 1.4, whoever owns those, which of them have been completed and which ones are ongoing. This is the best part, in my opinion. The other parts are important. But if the other parts don't exist, this doesn't really matter. This just becomes opinions. But if the other stuff exists, it's going to naturally lead to questions for the board members. They're naturally going to have questions. Why? Why isn't that happening? Why is this happening? So you share with them the data. You give them the implementation fidelity. This is what we've done. And then you let the voice come alive. And so if you did your homework tomorrow and you got the real campaigns running and you got the information, then you get to go find stories. You get to go find kids and parents and teachers and exactly what they're saying. Like you could even embed 3 videos here from Real, right? You could embed the videos. Like here is a description of an EL student and what the impact for his family that this new program has had. So starting to bring the story to life is really important, in my opinion. So whether you talk to people, just go talk to them and write down what they said, or you send out a survey in Qualtrics, Google Forms, Notepad, I don't care, or if you use Parsec Real, whatever the case is, this is where you provide samples of parent, student, and teacher feedback to bring color and life to the results. Because I think we all know that like the numbers are important, but until you see the like spirit behind the numbers and the stories behind the numbers, it's really hard to understand what's happening. So we would suggest overviewing all the goals, breaking each goal down individually with a 3-slide sequence. What are the baseline data points, which complies with law? How much money have you spent? That's slide 1. Slide 2, what have you done? What's ongoing? Slide 3, let's paint it with color. What's going on here? Like help the board see the story. The 4th part of that is, so what? This is going well. This isn't going well. Here is how we're adjusting. This is the action. This is the adjustment we're making. Really clear. Not in the weeds. Not a 5-page summary. Just action 1.3. We are going to, host a second training for teachers to increase the percentage of teachers that have been a part of the Take Flight training, right? Let them know what action you have decided to take based on the feedback that the data and the students and the teachers have given you. This is, again, a stance of a learning organization, right? An organization that is monitoring, changing, improving, and has a plan. So that 4-slide sequence is what we would suggest. So this is, again, a slide you would delete, but it's always nice to see what this might look like in real life. So here's your overview, right? 24-25, here's our goals. Very simply put, straight from the LCAP. Thank you, board. We're going to start by overviewing our goals. Now let's jump into goal 1, increase parent engagement in school programs. We set a budget for 12,500, spent to date 6,370. You can see here the metrics, the baseline, the current, and our target. So you can see for some of these, we've exceeded our target. And for some of these actions, the progress has been slower than hoped for. All right, that's the story. In exploring why the progress has been a bit slower than we hoped for, these are some of the actions, right? These are some of the things that we've done. We've done these 3 things. We have yet to complete these 2 things. And to explore what accounts for some of these results that we hoped for, we haven't gotten, and to celebrate some of the things that were over target, here is some feedback on this specific action. So one student shared, I like when my parents come to the workshops because they learn more about how to help me in with my homework. Sometimes they can't come because of work. Maybe having some of these meetings recorded would help. You can tell what this is leading to, right? We learned. And so guess what? What's our next action? We're going to have a virtual workshop. This should improve. This is an action we're going to take to improve based on feedback we received. So you can see kind of that sequence. Here's the goals. Goal 1, here's the data, the metrics of the goal. Here's what we've done and are working on. Here's feedback from parents and students. And based on all of that, this is our plan moving forward. So that would be the template. And I think following that pattern helps you really answer those questions. How much did we do? How well did we do it? And who was impacted as a result? All right. That leaves us with 10 minutes, which was my goal. So now, for real, you guys, I'm feeling really lonely. If you could show us your beautiful face and just share, like, what are your thoughts? What are your ideas? What would you add to this template? What would you change? I'd love for you guys to make friends, get to know each other, and talk about some of your ideas or reactions or questions to the tool. Yes, Dana.
Okay, so I know you said pick the heavy hitters, right? The things we've really invested in. But what is our legal requirement when we're reporting through all the slides? I have a feeling I'm the type of person that wouldn't know what I had to include, and I'd wind up including every metric and every action, and I would bore my board to death.
Yes, good question. So that gets back to reviewing. Wait, where'd it go? Ah, there it is. The report must include all available mid-year outcome data related to metrics identified in the current LCAP and all available mid-year expenditure and implementation data. So any of your actions that you have mid-year data, you are to report on that data. So when
Okay,
you're looking at the metrics that you have data for, those are the ones that you'd want to establish here in your goal 1 metrics. What I personally would do is I would include all those metrics, and then I would paint the picture for the board. This metric is unavailable. This metric will be available at this time. This is the metric that we're using ongoing, and here's the baseline, current, and target. So I would really paint the picture for the board of all the metrics that are there and which ones are available and not available. I saw Michelle. Did you have additional thoughts?
I was just going to say to Dana that it can be very overwhelming and daunting. I agree with you. I really group them. I group them a lot. We have 3 goals, but lots of actions. And I really group all of that together and just kind of tell a story while they're looking at it. And the fiscals in a chart, everything's on there, very similar to what Marshall is sharing today. And I think if you kind of think simple, you can make it simple. My board doesn't ask a lot of questions. So when I tell a story, they're just in awe about it. But I think grouping them really does save some time.
That's such a good thought, because sometimes in the LCAP, it's like the kitchen sink mentality. It's like, we're going to throw all the metrics in here. Like, we're good, promise, we're measuring, like it's all there. But when you really look at those metrics, to Michelle's point, these 5 metrics are really about this, and these metrics are about this, right? And then, you know, I think it's okay to say here, this metric's not available yet.
Yeah,
but
it
this
is.
our goal.
And that's actually how you group it when you're answering the prompts in your LCAP for your effectiveness, you group them anyway. And so by grouping them that way, it actually sets you up for success when you're having to do your LCAP at the end of the year, because you are also grouping them in the same way to express if the actions were effective or not based off that data. So by grouping them now, you're saving yourself a lot of time actually in the end of the year one.
Love it. What else? Thanks for sharing, you guys, jumping on. Sarah, I appreciate the comments. She was just saying the template will help provide some focus and start getting this moved forward and using some of the tools. So I appreciate that. Amanda also, thanks. Just knowing what questions to ask and trying to just get the engine running, like starting to just, okay, here's another thing that I have to start thinking about this. I think the earlier you can start thinking about it, just imagine, you guys, if January comes around and you're like, oh my gosh, I collected qualitative data already. It's like having homework done that you forgot about. So I think getting ahead of it can really be a huge relief when you come back from the holiday break. Jessica was saying the board members really like to see what's happening. They like real information. Michelle, that's so true. It's like, we just started. What do you mean? Did I do it all yet? It's
I'm
true.
still trying to get it all implemented effectively.
The nice thing is that this doesn't come until February, but the reason we're talking about it now is really because you have to get ahead of the game with the qualitative information. If you're not way ahead of the game there, you kind of have to start building a bank. And quite frankly, best practices, we would hope that you guys are using Parsec Real or whatever platform you want to use. Like, we would hope you're using that all the time to monitor effectiveness anyway. And while you're using it, you're collecting the quotes that really do help tell your story. And you have a collection of those that you can pull from when you build this. So ideally, you already have this in play. But if not, it's a great time to really launch some campaigns in Real and start getting that information. Anybody else? I love it when people in the work are sharing with each other. Thanks for doing that, you guys. All right. With 5 minutes left, we just want to make sure we also close the loop on this template will be sent to everybody that's in this webinar, as well as the slide deck. So use it in any way you want. It's yours. Change the colors, make it look festive, put your logo on it. Also, reach out to us. Like, we're all educators, and so we know this, like, the need for, like, oh gosh, wouldn't it be nice? Could I get some help on this? Or would you look at this? Or what are your thoughts on this? Like, we're happy to help. So please feel free, reach out. We can look over them. We can provide suggestions. We can do whatever you'd like us to do as a help. So as you start to do this, please reach out. I saw Armando gave his email address, but I think, Robert, we should have that too, just in the webinar. So if you registered for the webinar, that's how we know who to send it to. We'll send it to everyone in the webinar. All right. Speaking of Parsec Real, before Robert, I could tell in Robert's eyes, he's like, Marshall, go to the next slide. If you guys have a chance, we'd also love to know, like, in the same way, it's just incredibly enlightening to hear students talk about how things are going. Your feedback on these webinars on, like, what went well, what did I want more of, what did I want less of, is this tool helpful, am I glad I came? We only want to have webinars that are helpful. And so if you guys could scan this with your phone, you'll get to see how Parsec Real works, but you also can give us feedback on this webinar so that we can follow up, add additional resources, whatever we need to do to support you better. So if you guys don't mind, you just click this with your phone on the code, You can text, you can talk, or you can video. The talk is super easy. Don't be afraid. You just push record and answer the question, and then it turns it into audio. All right. With 2 minutes left, you guys, that was awesome. I hope this goes smooth as possible. I will just kind of turn it back to Kim or Summer. I'm their personal assistant. They like, come on, Marshall, come on, principal, come help us. But they do so much to help put all this together. So I'll turn it back over to the two of them to say bye, but I really appreciate everybody logging on today.
Yeah, just want to say thank you everybody for being here. We appreciate your time. Please feel free to reach out to your partner engagement manager if you have any questions, comments, concerns, need help with a little bit, or just can't find the resources. We are always here to help you and super excited to do so. We really appreciate you showing up, and we hope these resources are helpful to you. Thank you so much, Marshall, for heading this up for us. Great information. So have a great day, everybody. And we hope it goes well for the rest of your week as you head into the holidays.
Thanks, everybody.